Welcome to Coffee and Conversation. My name is Chuck Adams, and today we'll be discussing how to safely reopen your practice. I'm really excited to welcome our guest, who's a well-known speaker, writer, and consultant that specializes in helping plastic surgery, dermatology, and aesthetic practices grow. Glenn Morley with BSM Consulting. Welcome to Coffee and Conversation.
Hi, Chuck. Thanks for having me. I filled up my cup right before we met. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot that I want to cover today, but before we get started, I know you are a New England Patriots fan. So I have to know, what are your thoughts on Tom Brady and Gronk now being Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
You know, it just gives us more football to watch. We are fans of the Patriots, but now apparently we're fans of the Buccaneers. So I'm not sure what's going to happen if the two teams are playing each other, but we're going to be cheering for both.
Well, hopefully we'll at least get to see some football when fall comes around, for sure. So
praying.
So, Glenn, I know you work primarily in the cosmetic and aesthetic space. And so I'm curious, as you're talking with your aesthetic clients, what's the number one thing on their mind today?
Number one thing today, absolutely hands down, is safety. Patient safety, personal safety, staff safety. So that really is dominating conversations, both for me and for owners and staff members in practices, as you know, we all prepare for a COVID comeback.
COVID comeback. That's a pretty interesting term. Hopefully you're right. You know, I think the practices that we're chatting with on a daily basis are really, really busy right now. And a lot of that is around the pent up demand that's really been built over the last 10 or 11 weeks. You know, when we were talking earlier about, you know, how practices should reopen, I heard you say there's only one way to safely reopen a practice, the right way. Tell me what you mean by that.
Sure. You know, it's been actually, from my perspective, a wonderful opportunity for a lot of clients to take a step back and really assess operations, assess their readiness for patients to come back with increased safety in mind. But, you know, this is not new. We are, as healthcare providers, safety has always been at the forefront of what we do. And so in large part, I think what we need to help both our teams internally and our patients externally understand is that, you know, safety precautions and safety standards have always been the standard of care. And there certainly are new factors that all practices are examining. But, you know, at the end of the day, with a lot of care, with a lot of examination practices that are asking the right questions, putting all of the right pieces in place in training their teams, talking with their teams, understanding the sort of inflection points that they each have, understanding the nuances of, you know, their own individual practices, and you know, coming out with every I dotted and every T crossed. That's the way to come back, and articulating that well in advance of seeing patients back in the practice is also, you know, one of the key success factors. So, you know, that is the right and best way for practices to relaunch their practices. And then, of course, you know, as they are relaunching, the ideal is for them to have a continuous feedback loop internally. And in most practices that opened this week, that meant that literally at the conclusion of every single day, having a group huddle at a safe distance to check in with each other and understand, what did we see? What were patients' comments, both in the room as we greeted them, as they checked out? What kinds of things did we each experience? What does that mean relative to the delivery of care? What does that mean to the patient experience? And we're making minor adjustments in real time.
Yeah, I think it's really important that practices have a really clear communication plan, not only for their patients, but also their staff and their internal customers. I think that's really, really important right now, especially as, practices are really trying to instill a sense of confidence in their patients and their staff, so they feel comfortable coming into the practice environment.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting as I have had an opportunity to observe practices as they are actually literally rolling out these new protocols and practices, because one of the things that we recommend doing is experiential learning as we are adapting these new safety precautions, to the point that, every single thing that we are asking patients to do, we're first asking staff members to do. And so, having a staff person literally pretend like they're a patient, arrive in their car, walk them in as if they are a patient. And it's been interesting doing that with staff members and having them, really stand in the patient's shoes, and the confidence that inspires in them to know that they are protecting patients, to know that the patients are covered, and as staff members, they are protected. If they're protected and their patients are protected, then all of the circles of people that we all interact with are protected. And I actually had a staff person the other day say to me, I feel safer in the practice than I do going to Stop and Shop. And that really was a testament to the job that this practice had done in preparation. So that was such a feel good, to hear her say that.
Yeah, no, that's encouraging to hear for sure. So let me ask you this: what are some recommendations you would give to practice owners for steps maybe they should be following, really to ensure they're providing a safe environment for both their patients and their staff?
Sure. A couple of things that have come out this week. I think, I really think by and large, practices are pretty consistently coming up with the same things, and they're good things. But a couple of things that have come out this week that are really interesting and helpful. I have one practice that created, it's a plastic surgery practice that is so ahead of the curve in everything they do. It's really awe-inspiring and humbling to work with them and be a part of their team. But they set up a staging area for their staff, and you literally, what was formerly a separate consultation room is now a staging area for staff to arrive, and each staff person has their own sort of area, and they come in, they change out of their street clothes into their scrubs. They have all their PPE, they have their own box that their things go into. And so it's just so carefully orchestrated and carefully managed, who can go in, how they go in, how they exit. So things like that, staff is coming up in real time with solutions to concerns. And I think, just staying connected as a team in the morning and in the afternoon, every single day during these points of reentry are really important. But, it's not just the safety, it's also, staying in touch with each other so that we can gauge productivity. And so we can gauge the flow. And, honestly, what most practices have reported back to me this week is that they allowed so much time that they were sort of hanging out in their respective rooms bored, which is a good thing. We'd rather have boredom than have too many patients stacked in. But they have, flow worked so well, and the preparation in advance of patients being roomed worked so well that they feel confident now having the patients come in a tighter schedule. A lot of the things that have gone into creating that efficiency include doing pre-consultation assessments, and a lot of practices that were a little bit leery of virtual consultations that have now embraced that concept. Very often patients are arriving and we have rooms fully stocked for medical aesthetic treatments, and all products are there. Everything that we need to get rocking and rolling with the patient is there, and it's super efficient. There's not a whole lot of conversation around what we're going to do, because that happened before the appointment. And when you put a stopwatch against it, you save a heck of a lot of time when you basically cut out a lot of chit chat and get straight to work. So a nice upside that, really is an unexpected consequence of these efficiencies that we worked so hard in creating over the course of the last couple of weeks, and we're now able to see is that for a lot of our clients that are buttoned up this way, we are going to be able to forecast their productivity. And as we tighten up our times, that forecasting is giving us a working budget. So things that we didn't even anticipate being able to do operationally, we now can do. So it's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Necessity is always the mother of invention, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm seeing nothing but opportunity, actually.
Yeah, so you mentioned, and I love the COVID comeback. What are some other things that your clients are doing really that would be an indicator that things are starting to work back into some sense of a new normal or some sense of normalcy?
The confidence that I am seeing, that feels normal. And, I think a lot of times the unknown is so dreaded that we all get a little bit uncomfortable, and people were really, kind of out of their skins, uncomfortable prior to going back. But then I've seen one by one, as practices reopen, the preparation, the hard work that went into preparing for a solid comeback has equipped all of these teams to have such confidence, and they have confidence in each other, not just in their own unique ability to deliver excellent care, but they have confidence in each other because we've had to coordinate care, we've had to collaborate in a whole different way. And so I was not kidding when I said I am seeing so many good things that have come out of this, because we talk about collaboration, but this is forced collaboration. This is actually really forced collaboration. I need to know exactly what my colleague is doing right before I see the patient, and I need to set up my colleague that's gonna take over the patient care or escort the patient out to the exit. I need to be so well orchestrated in every single item so that nothing gets missed, and nothing is getting missed. It's really pretty wonderful.
Well, I tell you, that's really really fantastic to hear. I know we've been surprised as we've talked with some of our clients about really how quickly things are starting to bounce back, certainly from a revenue standpoint, and they're starting to think at least little more strategic and a little more long term.
Yeah, I'm
then
seeing the
certainly,
same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that is super, super encouraging. And Glenn, first of all, thank you for joining us today. If a
Thank you.
practice wants to learn more about, how you can help, what should they do? How should they contact you?
So calling our practice, BSM Consulting. We are in Incline Village, Nevada, and we have a 1-800 number. Certainly my email. My email is my first initial last name, G Morley at bsmconsulting.com. And actually, a lot of people over the last 10 weeks have found me on LinkedIn. It's been really interesting. I was tracking that with our marketing director the other day, and she shared with me that we've seen a 38% increase in our LinkedIn connections. So, weirdly, that's just been sort of a spike for people in this, COVID connection time.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the time today, and I was happy to share a little coffee and conversation with you. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.